guys, so as promised, I am going to be doing a cooking lesson today. Today we're going to be making jam. It should be pretty easy. I've never made this jam before, but I thought that I would try it. I went to the grocery store and the blackberries were on sale, so I decided to try and make some blackberry jam. So our ingredients are going to be blackberries, a little bit of lemon juice, and sugar. I'm really excited about this because it seems like it's really easy, but we're gonna go on this adventure together. So the first thing it says to do is to place the berries in a large saucepan and bring to a boil. So I've got my saucepan here. I'm gonna go ahead and turn my stove on pretty high to get started. And I've already washed my blackberries, so I'm gonna go ahead and dump one set in. It said 12 ounces, but the recipe could easily be taken in half. 12 ounces of blackberries, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, and 2 cups of sugar. Now it says while these are heating up that I should be smashing them with a potato masher. Mine looks a little bit different probably than most people's. My mom got this for me. It actually does work really well though, and it doesn't scratch any of my pans. So I'm gonna be using this to kind of just mash down on them, get some of that juice out. These seem like they're pretty stiff blackberries. I'm getting a little bit of juice out. I'm hoping that as they heat up, they get a little bit softer. But we are definitely, there we go. Some of these are starting to really mash through there now. So we're going ahead and getting those squished. I don't know if you can see that very well, but they're starting to get stuck in there, so I'm just gonna tap them off and start on the ones that haven't gotten squished yet. And it does say to make sure that you're using a stainless steel or an enamel saucepan or something that's not, something that's a non-stick pan, because I have a feeling this is gonna get pretty sticky. Now I assume that you could use a pretty similar recipe if you wanted to do strawberry instead, since they're both berries. I'm not sure how it would work if you wanted to make grape jelly. Whew, a lot of work here. So those seem like they're pretty well mashed. I'm gonna go ahead and try and get that last berry out. Always make sure you've washed your hands before you start cooking. I washed mine and really scrubbed them because I was working out in the garden. So next it says to add the lemon juice after that has come to a full boil. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my lemon juice ready. It says that I need 2 tablespoons. So I'm gonna take my lemon, make sure that you have an adult if you're using a knife. I have my nice Christmas knife here. I'm just gonna cut that lemon in half. You can pick out the seeds. I have a nice lemon juicer here, or citrus juicer. So most of the time I don't have to worry about seeds. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to get this in this tablespoon here. It says that I need 2 tablespoons, so I'll go ahead and at least get 1 ready. If you can, I always prefer using fresh juice over to stuff that's in the bottle. It just tastes a little bit better. So these guys are really starting to get going. Looks like they're actually starting to boil now, so I'm gonna, oh my goodness, they're so much easier to mash now that they're starting to get warm. So I'm gonna get them a little bit more mashed, and I'm gonna add this lemon juice in. I only have 1 tablespoon of lemon juice so far, so I'm gonna need to add that very carefully. And then I'm gonna need to squeeze another tablespoon. So half of a large lemon gave me exactly what I needed. I really like lemon, so I'm gonna add just a little bit extra in there. And then it's always great to save citrus peels because you can always use them for zest later. You know, if you wanted to make a toast or something like that, you could always add a little bit of zest on top of your toast with your jam. So it says once the lemon juice is in, to heat it and boil hard, meaning you see lots and lots of bubbles, for 1 minute. So I'm gonna finish mashing what I can in here and then really just let it boil for a minute. Ooh, I'm getting blackberry juice on my counters. It's okay, I'll clean it all up at the end. So as we're waiting, it does say 2 cups of sugar. And I unfortunately can only find my 1/2 cup measuring cup. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get a bowl and we're gonna count out 2 cups. So if I only have a 1/2 cup measuring cup, I'm gonna need to fill this 4 times to get 2 cups. So I'm going to make sure it's nice and level. So I have 1, 2, it's a lot of sugar, 3, 4. Now it says after I have boiled that for 1 minute, I can start adding in the sugar. It says that you can add in the sugar all at one time, but I think I might add in half, get that stirred in, and then add in the other half. And I'm just gonna keep stirring with my masher. It's seeming to do a pretty good job. So I'm gonna add in about half. Get that stirred in. Okay, that looks like it's about stirred in, so I'm gonna do the other half. Wow, that made it a lot thicker. And it actually made it a little bit more red than I thought. I typically think of blackberry jam as being a really dark purple, but this is kind of turning out to be more of a red color. So then after I've added the sugar, I need to cook, stirring constantly until it begins to look syrupy, which should be about 5 minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this, and I'll probably fast forward this in the video so you guys don't have to just sit here for 5 minutes of me stirring. So I'm gonna look at my clock. It says that it's 4:41. I should be bringing this back up to a boil and stirring continuously for 5 minutes. it says that it should be 220 degrees Fahrenheit with a candy thermometer. I don't have one of those. Then it says that it should coat the back of the spoon. Well, I don't have a spoon with me right now. They're all in the dishwasher. And so it gives a third option to run a finger or a clean object about the width of a finger through the coat of jam. If the jam does not run and fill the gap, it is done. So when I'm just pulling this spatula through, it's still filling that gap pretty quickly. So I think I'm going to go for about another minute. But again, I'm going to keep stirring it this whole time, making sure that it's not getting overdone, because it does say that it will thicken as it starts to cool. Still not quite ready. Sam, I have my dog in here helping me do my cooking lesson today, and he's looking longingly for a toy out in the living room, but unfortunately he's just gonna have to wait. So I'm still pulling this spatula through. It's still pretty runny, I think, so I'm gonna keep stirring, and I'm gonna check again in about 30 seconds. It smells delicious though, and the color has gotten a lot darker. I've been trying to take some pictures so that you can see how it's changing. It's also not quite smoking as much as it was before. So I think that's a sign that we're getting pretty close to done. It definitely is kind of sticking to the sides of my pan, and it's definitely gotten a lot thicker. You can tell if you've ever boiled something that was kind of liquidy and you've made what we call a reduction. Oh, there he goes over the gate. You'll notice that the amount of liquid that you have in your pan is cut in half. Let's see if I was able to, oh, so close. We're still not quite there. Alright, I think this is what they mean. It is kind of leaving a path. It's not filling in that gap immediately. So I'm just going to give it a few more good whisks. And I'm going to take it off the heat. Now, I like to actually move things, not just turn the heat off, because that's still going to keep cooking. It can be helpful to hold your pan up in the air a little bit, just to get some cool air underneath it. So I'm going to let that set for just a minute. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get 2 other supplies ready. So I have a strainer, because right now it's still got the seeds and the pits and things like that. And I don't really want those in my jam, so I'm going to run it through a strainer to just get the jam out. Okay, so now that I have my strainer, and I moved a couple things out of the way, I am going to take this, and I'm going to take a spatula, and I'm going to make sure to scrape all the sides clean, and dump all of this in here. Wow, it thickened up a lot just in those 2 minutes it took for me to get my strainer and my bowl out and get my spatula. It is definitely turning into a jam consistency for sure. Alright, so now that I've got as much out as I can, you can kind of see how it's dripping out the bottom, so I'm just going to kind of keep pushing it up against the sides, trying to get as much of that jam out as possible. So again, just gently pushing that out, so that all I'm going to be left with in the strainer is just the seeds and the pits of the blackberries. I may switch out a second and use my masher, see if that works a little bit better than my spatula. It definitely is getting very, very thick. There's still a lot coming out of there, so I'm just going to kind of let it drip. I don't know if you can see that in the camera. It's slowly coming out of there, and it definitely is sticky. It is already all over my fingers. But again, it smells delicious. I guess the real question will be whether it tastes as delicious as it smells. I think if I were going to do this again, I would want to get something that has a little bit bigger holes than this. The jam is just seeming to fill them up, or jam them up as one might say. So I think that's all I'm going to be getting out of that, at least for right now. That's all I'm really concerned about. So I got a nice little bit in there. Not maybe as much as I had hoped for. Oh my goodness, sticking to everything. But it seems like it's a pretty good amount, at least for me being the older person that likes blackberry jam in this house. I think it will be just fine. So I'm going to leave that mess over there. I'll come back to that in just a minute. I'm going to let this cool a little bit. And then I'm going to taste it and see what it tastes like. Alright, so I'm going to try this. I'm just going to take my pinky and dip a little bit in there and see what it tastes like. That's really good. It's definitely a little bit thicker than most jams. It's almost a little bit more like a candy that hasn't hardened yet. But overall, it's really good. So if you'd like to try this, I will link the recipe that I used in the description of the video. And thanks for watching. Okay guys, so I ended up with almost 8 ounces of blackberry jam. I'm pretty excited about the way it turned out. And let me know if you guys try this recipe at home with your parents.